After a temporary bottom in the summer, C8 prices continue to decline. The median price for a C8 is now $89.5 thousand, and this is $22,000 or 20% less than what you would have had to pay at the market top. So this means that prices are very slowly moving towards MSRP, but this of course only applies to the Stingrays. The Z06 is a completely different story. In this video you'll get an update on the latest price developments in the C8 market, and we'll also speculate as to where the market might be heading. As always, we'll start with a quick look at the current market. Over here we have the US market of August 23. In blue we have the Z06 and in orange the Stingrays. Because the price ranges are so different, we'll discuss them separately. Starting with the Stingray, we can see that there are still many new cars advertised for the starting MSRP of $68,000. As we discussed before, it's unlikely that you can get them for that price. But based on the messages that I receive, I get the impression that the situation is improving slowly. More and more people are able to get them at MSRP. Nevertheless, as you can see, most cars are priced above $73,000. In line with the normal car markets, we can also see that older cars start to be cheaper than newer ones. A coupe from 2020 is, for example, approximately $6,000 cheaper than one from 2023. And this might be an obvious thing, but it didn't used to be this way in the C8 market. Now looking at the top end of the price range, we can see that prices still stretch up to $120,000. There's even one listing of $195,000, which is exactly $100,000 over MSRP. I'm not sure if that's an error or what's going on there, but if it's indeed a regular 3LT Stingray, the price is way out of line with the market. And speaking about MSRP, we can see that the majority of the market is still priced above that. Coupes start at $68,000 and a fully spec'd one sits between $90,000 and $100,000. The convertibles are approximately $7,000 more expensive. Now moving on to the Z06, we can see that the market is at a similar place as where the Stingray market was during its first year. Premiums between $100,000 and $140,000 are not uncommon. You can even find lists of dealers who will charge you the largest market adjustments. Looking at the data though, the situation doesn't appear to be as bad as that I just made it sound. MSRP for a coupe starts at $110,000, but a 3LZ with Z07 package will cost you $147,000. As you can see, there are plenty of new cars listed for sale in that price range. Yet, you'll find several messages on different forums that confirm that you cannot buy those cars for that price. The listings are just there to generate traffic. A similar strategy was used when the C8 launched. Used car pricing, so the blue dots give a much better idea of the actual prices. And this reveals that the median price is $200,000 and that prices tend to sit between $170,000 and $250,000. And those are serious sums. It's for example right up there with the 992 GT3 or a 3-year-old 720S or 600LT. So these market adjustments really push the Z06 into a crowded price range. But now then, it's time to have a look at the latest developments in the prices. Especially in the Stingray market, prices are on the move. Over here we have the price developments for the coupes and the convertibles. And this shows that, on average, and that word is important here, prices decreased by 14.3% or $16,000 in the convertible market and by 13.2% or $13,000 in the coupe market. However, there was some volatility during last year. Prices briefly bottomed in May, just as they did in 2022. It seems to be a seasonal effect, because they dropped again by almost 3% during the last 3 months. Again, similar to last year. And this also means that compared to the market top, coupes lost 19.4% or $21,000 and convertibles 20% or $25,000. Now these decreases pushed prices down to the lowest point ever. The median price for a coupe is $85,900 and for a convertible this is $96,000. Now as you can see, the price trends for the coupes and the convertibles are basically identical. And the same applies to the 1, 2 and 3LTs. There really isn't any difference. Interestingly, the difference between the new and old cars is also very small. If we look at the price development per model year for the coupes, we can see that the decrease rates among 2020, 2021, 2022 and 2023 cars are very similar. In other words, it's likely that there's an external factor or a common market factor that drives prices down. After all, if it were the car-specific factors, you would expect the older cars to lose less. These price trends of course raise an interesting question. Can we expect the same development in the Z06 market? After all, price dynamics in the first months have been the same as in the Stingray market. Prices are far above MSRP. But there are also important differences. The price point is a lot higher, the macroeconomic environment changed, the pandemic is gone, and supply is currently building at a much slower pace in the Z06 market than that it did in the Stingray market. Let's have a look at the price trend for the Z06. Over here we have the price trends for the new and the used cars, split by roof type. Now before we look at the numbers, it is key to understand what we're looking at here. The trends for the new cars might be consisting out of artificial listings. We talked about this before. It's unlikely that you can get a car for $150,000. The price trends for the used cars are more realistic and therefore more informative. But also they need to be interpreted with care. In May, only 23 used Z06 were listed for sale, versus 117 right now. The decrease of 8% in the convertible and 3% in the coupe market, therefore, needs to be interpreted with care. The numbers in May might not be representative for the market. However, prices decreased, there's no question about it. Out of the 24 cars in May, 11 were still listed for sale in August, and the sellers decreased the prices by an average of $25,000, so approximately 10%. Therefore, based on this very limited data, it seems to be so that Z06 prices will not follow the initial price trajectory of the Stingray market. That is one where used cars were still increasing significantly in the first year. As we just saw, prices already seem to be coming down. But please note that this is a preliminary conclusion based on limited data. So we talk now about price trends in the Z06 and the Stingray market. And basically, price trends are down. For the Stingray this is crystal clear, and for the Z06 this is still a preliminary conclusion. But note that this doesn't change the fact that prices are still high. I'm only talking about the direction here, not the level. Prices of course move in line with the scarcity level in the market, and this in turn is influenced by demand and supply. It's difficult to measure the scarcity level directly, but I found that the advertised time, so the time that a car is listed for sale, is a decent proxy. I think you guessed what we'll look at now. However, before doing so, I would like to thank Autotempest for providing the data for this type of analysis. Autotempest conveniently pulls listings from a bunch of different websites into one place, so that you can browse through all of them. Check out the links in the description to find the Corvette C8s for sale right now. Let's have a look at the data. Over here we have the development in the advertised time, and this shows that it currently takes on average 33 days to sell a Stingray. And this is a massive decrease compared to Q1, during which it took an average of 55 days. So what does this mean? It means that the scarcity level in the market increased. It's not a perfect indicator as to what will happen to the prices, but it shows that the C8 market is maturing. Since Q1 2022, values fluctuated around 40 days. They shot up in the winter of 2022, and this resulted in a loss of more than 10% during those 2 quarters. In the foreseeable future, a further price decrease comparable to what we saw before seems likely. If we look at the drivers of the scarcity level, we can see first of all that supply started to stabilize. Since mid-2022, there have been on average 1,300 coupes for sale and 1,000 convertibles. Again, a sign that the C8 market matured and that depreciation patterns will resemble the ones of any other car market. Now the demand side of the scarcity level is much more difficult to measure. But it's fair to say that the increase in interest rates limited the demand to some extent. Yet, more recently, the rate of increases decreased, and potentially this played a role in the latest decrease in the advertised time. I know that there are many ifs and assumptions in that statement, but it's something that has been happening in many sports and supercar markets. Prices have been falling less quickly and scarcity levels have been increasing. Check out my latest market update if you want to know more about that. Conveniently, that also brings us to the last topic of this video. The price decreases of 13 and 14% in the Stingray market need to be placed in a context. we need to compare it to what happened in the sports and supercar market. And to do that, I will use some information from the previous video. Over here we have the year-over-year price changes for almost all cars for which I'm tracking the prices. On the horizontal axis we have the change in percentages, and on the vertical axis the number of cars to which this does apply. On average, cars lost 10.4%, and this means that the Stingrays lost slightly more, at 13% for the coupes and 14% for the convertibles. However, it's still a very decent result. You see, this graph consists out of young and old cars. Naturally, the new cars depreciate more and fall on the left hand side of this graph. If we look at some other new cars, we can see that 992 GT3s lost 17% and 992 Carrera S's 10%. The advantages fall even further to the left at 18%. These are just a few examples, but it shows that the rates in the Stingray market aren't bad at all. Let's wrap up and conclude. After a little price bump in the summer, prices continue to fall in the most recent 3 months. Stingrays are down by 13 to 14% compared to last year, but recent scarcity levels increased slightly, and both developments are in line with the broader car market. Therefore, going forward, I think it makes sense to expect further price decreases, but perhaps at a lower rate than before. But this is of course pure speculation. We also made a preliminary conclusion that Z06 prices already started to come down from absurd levels. Prices for cars that didn't sell during the last 3 months decreased by approximately 10%. They didn't increase further, like we saw in the C8 market during the beginning of 2021. Now before we close, I still need to mention that all of these numbers are of course based on averages. Therefore, they might not match with your individual experience. And with that we arrived at the end of this video. Now if you enjoy this data-driven way of analyzing car markets, but would like to see a video for a different car, head over to my channel. Over there you'll find market analysis for a large variety of cars. Can't find the car you're looking for? Let me know the name of the car by commenting it down below in the comment section. Once there are enough requests for a certain car, I'll make a video about it. As always, thank you for watching, and I hope to see you next week for a new video.